Hello and welcome to the local campaign, helping voters make an informed choice in the upcoming municipal election. I'm Kim Wilson and I'll be your host this evening. Tonight we have the North Dumfries Mayoral debate. The candidates are incumbent Sue Foxton and Martin Harrison. Speaking order was drawn before the debate, so with her opening remarks, we'll hand it over to Sue Foxton.
Thank you. I'm so proud of our township, our council, our staff, and our people. We have come a long way since the election day in 2014. Change and challenges have been front and center in our municipality. I, as mayor and council, very quickly in 2015, recognized that business as usual could not continue. The township recruited and hired a new CAO, Chief Administrative Officer, and a new Director of Finance. Key to the hiring of these two individuals has been the message both inside and outside of the organization that there's a need for change in the culture of the municipality in terms of how we conduct business and perform our tasks. Accountability, transparency, and good management principles are front and center. Change does not happen immediately, but the transition is well underway. I, as your mayor and council, are providing the necessary leadership, and we are looking to the future by learning from the mistakes of our past. As a council, we are not afraid to make the necessary tough decisions to improve the municipality for the benefit of our residents and business alike. We have established new opportunities and financial security for our municipality. Council worked together to develop the first ever strategic plan for the corporation. This 15-page document identified the township's visions and goals, but perhaps more importantly, it established a plan of action enabling us to realize our vision and goals. I am equally proud of our township partners. Accomplishments do not come from one person alone, but are done through collaboration and partnerships. Working with my counterparts in other townships, we are moving forward in a positive and progressive way. Equally important is working with relationships with our regional partners, our provincial MPPs, and our federal MPs. I have established strong ties with these partners to ensure North Dumfries' voice is heard. The future is bright. We are North Dumfries strong. We are North Dumfries proud.
Thanks. Martin?
Hi, my name is Martin Harrison. I'm running for your mayor in the North Dumfries Township. I just like to thank you for welcoming me in your homes, and I thank Rogers for inviting me to this debate. I've lived in North Dumfries Township for about 10 years. I found in the last 10 years that taxes seem to keep creeping up and accountability doesn't seem to be on the focus of the council. I live in Ward 4. Our council member there, he was missing in action for 2 years approximately due to health concerns. I don't have any problems with that, but I do suggest that maybe the council could have found some other representation to cover that period while our councilman Neil Ritchie was off sick. Other than that, I'd just like to say I'm happy to run and I hopefully will succeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. So for the question and answer period tonight, we're joined by Adam Jackson of the Waterloo Chronicle and Darren Drulard of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce. To begin the question and answer portion, we're going to hand it over to Adam Jackson.
Since North Dumfries has a seat at Regional Council, the elected mayor will have to vote on major issues that affect the entire region. One of those is the opioid issue. Do you agree with the current plan to create supervised injection or consumption sites? If not, what do you think can and should be done to combat the ongoing opioid crisis right now?
And we'll start with you, Martin.
Personally, I don't think that a safe injection site is a good idea. There's reasons why. There's laws that prevent people from taking illicit and illegal drugs. I think if people have real problems with addictions, that they should address it through their medical professionals, and that's where I stand on that.
Thanks. Sue?
Thank you. It's never an easy question, and addiction isn't always by anyone's fault, but by circumstance. Do I agree with safe injection sites? I think we can do better. I sit around regional council and the inventiveness around that table and the ingenuity when we put our brains together is sometimes quite amazing. And I think we can come up with a better solution. I think a safe injection site is a Band-Aid solution for today, which doesn't solve or resolve any of the issues on hand, and that I think we can be better. I like the new rapid access clinics where they're actually dealing with the drug addiction. But see, when we blended the mentally ill with the homeless and added opioid, we created a whole new problem. And to deal with it, we have to deal with all three issues: the mentally ill, homelessness, and addiction. And so I think we can come up with a better solution if we just put our heads together.
Thanks, Sue. For the next question, we're going to send it over to Darren.
Thank you. Recently, the provincial government has taken unprecedented steps to invoke municipal reform. Never before in Ontario has the notwithstanding clause been used, as it was used to force the City of Toronto to reduce the size of its council nearly by half. First, are you concerned what the province's plans might be for the region of Waterloo? And secondly, do you believe consolidation like this is beneficial to the taxpayer?
We'll start with you, Sue.
Oh, thank you. Again, really good questions, guys. I was in Ottawa, and I listened to Doug Ford speak, and I listened to the ministers. He basically stood up there and said that he was not going to really do much to any of the other regions, but he wanted to deal with Toronto, and Toronto seems to be really within his heart. Change may be coming, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as people think. There's been all kinds of talks. One talk has been about amalgamation of all the municipalities, and the other talk has been about creating service board, making the region a service board. Nobody really knows right now, so we have to watch and listen, but we have to deal with the issues of the day. We don't have the time or the energy to waste on speculation. There are other situations that we need our full energy on.
Thanks. Martin?
I do agree with what Doug Ford had done with the notwithstanding clause. I think that we would have had gridlock, and change is really difficult to come. If you have all kinds of obstructionists in the Toronto City Council, they seem to want to frustrate any kind of change. There are too many voices on the council, and I think Doug Ford made a good decision to use the notwithstanding clause. It is, like he said, it is a tool that he can use. It's legislated there for his use, and if we have activist judges that will impede the will of the people, then I think he had no choice. So I think it was a good idea.
Thanks, Martin. And back to Adam.
Like many of the other townships in this region, North Dumfries has been battling to get access to Grand River Transit and better connections to the rest of the region. Do you see this as a priority, and what do you feel is necessary right now to improve access into the rest of the region?
And we'll start with you, Martin.
Really, I think our township really doesn't lend itself to rapid transit or mass transit. I think a better solution may be Uber, things along those lines. But if you bring in transit into some of the smaller areas, it's going to invite a lot of problems, and I think it's just a bad idea.
Thanks. Sue.
Thank you. Actually, I've been working with the region quite a lot in the last 2 years on transit. We've worked out a couple of issues and a couple of prospects, but it's not a good enough fit yet. We have to find something that is affordable for our township, that will meet the needs, and options are like smaller size buses. We don't need the big buses. Or looking outside the box and looking at what Innisfil did with Uber. And there's other options out there that we can explore. So we're starting to explore some of them. The thing with the townships is right now I've got meetings with the mayors of all the townships. We get together every other month with our CAOs, and we discuss things that we can do jointly. And one of the things has been looking at different ways we can do transit within Waterloo region and make it workable and feasible.
Thanks, Sue. And Darren for the next question.
A little bit more of a broad topic. I'd like to hear what your position on growth and economic development in the township is.
Sue?
Oh, thank you. We've been working in the last 2 years again with the region. Some of our areas that we want to see more economical growth in are not in our official plan laid out that way. So right now we're studying the new official plan, and we're hoping to extend the employment areas so that we will allow such growth. we've actually been very fortunate that we've had a substantial growth in the last 4 years at several industries, and we've actually grown more economically than a lot of the other areas in the region.
As far as growth, I think uncontrolled, rapid growth of the small settlements within North Dumfries Township really is not going to be a great idea, because there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be in place for the growth, well-planned growth, and maybe a more moderate style growth would be not such a bad idea.
Thanks, Martin. Adam.
Do you believe in term limits for municipal politicians?
And we'll start with you, Martin.
Definitely. I think term limits are a great idea. I think anybody that has been on the council or run for mayor and have been in place for more than 2 or 3 elections, at least 2, I think it's time to pack it in, and if you want to volunteer your services and your experience, by all means. But I think the positions should be regularly changed every term so that we don't have issues with transparency and that kind of thing, because a lot of backroom things do go on. It's just the nature of the beast, and I think that as I would like to say, like, I'm only going to run for 1 term. I'm willing to commit 1 term, and after that I'm not interested in carrying on.
Well, it's hard for me to say I believe in term limits when I've already served 15 years as a councillor and now my 4 years as mayor. There's something to be said about a lack of knowledge, and I've said to my CAO in the past that what I've taken in the last 19 years, I want documented, because there's not records of this stuff, and if you're gone, you have to reinvent the wheel each time. Knowledge is a valuable thing. You look at Hazel McCallion and the knowledge she had in Mississauga, and what a loss it would have been if she had left too soon. So, do I believe in terms? Possibly, but you have to have good people to step in that have had experience. The thing I also believe in is that no one should be able to run for mayor unless they've served a term of council, because you need that background knowledge. You don't have the Planning Act under your belt. You don't have a lot of these acts and things in the municipal code that you have to live by. So I strongly have always advocated that. You have to serve a term of council, at least 1, before you can run for mayor.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an opportunity if you want to go 1 more round on this question, or if you would like to move on to a new question.
You guys.
Well, I'm okay with another round on this question.
Another round on this question?
Sure.
Okay, then we'll go with you, Martin.
Okay. One thing I've found that sometimes when people talk about experience and knowledge and issues like that, as far as, you know, running nonstop perpetually in some of these offices, what you end up getting is you get 15 years on council, and you've learned everything in the first year, and you're getting 1 year's experience 15 times. So I think that fresh ideas and better and different outlooks are always a great thing. We have a very diverse group of people in the township, and I think there's a lot of ideas that could be offered up, and I don't want one perspective perpetually. So that's my position on that.
Sue?
When I first started in council was 2 years, a 2-year per term. It was decided that it didn't work. Councillor, in your first year, there's so much to learn. The first thing you're learning about conflict of interest, then you're learning about all the different acts and how they apply to you and everything else. In the 2nd year, you're just starting to understand it, and you're up for re-election again. And so everything stops while you're at re-election, and nothing happens. So next, the province decided it would be a 3-year term. And they found the same thing was happening. In the first year was such a huge learning curve. The 2nd year, you're just getting under your belt. The 3rd year, when you're just starting to implement, it's election time again. And so we found they've worked out that the 4-year term seems to be the best. And so, you know, people say you've learned it all in 1 year or 2 years. It's not like that. It's a changing society. You have to change with it. And for fresh ideas, it's not the fresh ideas of the 4 or 5 councillors sitting around the table and the mayor. It's the fresh ideas that the public brings forward with us. The conversations we have with the other levels of government. It's constantly relearning and re-educating and being involved that allows you to evolve as a community.
Thanks, Sue. So for the next question, I'm going to give it to Darren.
What is the biggest single issue Township Council will be faced with in the next term?
Sue.
I think the next big single issue would be how we deal with what happens with the provincial legislation coming down. The issues and how we financially handle what's coming our way. Different things like transit and the funding. Funding's already been cut. How we handle that. Will the infrastructure money be coming down? So it's working with the province. And that's why I went and I met with 8 ministers just a few months ago. I'm going again in November. I have arranged to meet with another 8 ministers. I have to have them know North Dumfries. I have to have them know what township life is like and how important and precious it is for our society, for Ontario. The rural mix is a necessary mix in our province.
Thanks. Martin.
I think the biggest issue facing the township will be the financial constraints. I think that after the last election, we find out after the election that there's a huge deficit. The taxes went up 9%. They've gone up not just 9% for the first year of Sue's term, but the next 3 years you had a 9% increase. That doesn't include the 2 to 3% increases on top of those. So it's like compound interest. You pay the first year, the increase is in effect for the next 3 years with the additional increases on top of those. So, you know, all the reserves that we had were used back following the last election to pay down some of the expenses. So there was quite a few surprises, and I'm kind of a little bit leery of what's coming next. After this election, if we have a look at the books, we could have more problems. So I think that's the biggest issue, is the financial constraints. There may not be money to do a lot of the things that should be done, and we won't know for sure until we have a good look at the books.
Thanks, Martin. Before we move on to the next question, Sue, I'm going to offer you an opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you very much. Finances were in a mess in 2014 and when we first came into council. So we did have to do a 9% tax increase to deal with the debt, and the reserves were wiped out. Now we're solvent. You know what, folks? Your hydro bill goes up every year. Your gas bill goes up. Your water goes up. Those things have to be paid by your taxes for your municipality as well. We're looking at right now a cost, a huge increase in different types of things like salt for the winter roads has just increased exponentially. We're on solid ground. We've created reserves to handle all calamities that may happen. We've got snow reserves, everything else. We're in solid financial situation and we're ready to move forward.
Thanks. Martin, would you like another word? We'll give you
Sure,
another
yeah.
minute.
Well, for example, some of the roads in the city of Ayr, like let me give you an example. Calhoun Street, the road is in terrible shape, and one of the residents asked if Sheila Harrison could look into what the status is for the road as far as when will it be repaired, and it was looking like a 4-year timeline before the road is repaired. This is a basic responsibility of the township, and you know, if all the money's gone and we can't do the basic necessities of the township, then we've got a problem. And this goes back to experience. Like why didn't anyone see this financial disaster coming? Why wasn't anyone informed? Yes, there was all experienced councillors on the council when this all took place, and nobody was minding the store, and the taxpayer got left holding the bag. So that's not going to happen. If you elect me mayor, that's not going to happen under my leadership. People will be kept informed of the issues.
Thanks. Sue, I'm going to come back to you.
So not only did we do our strategic plan, but we did a road study. It's a 10-year road study that tells us which roads needed the most work at the time. Now the good thing is a lot of municipalities are suffering under intense infrastructure. Our infrastructure is quite sound in that we can manage and deal with it. We have a $10 million roads projects to do over the next 10 years. That's $1 million per year. With grant money and our reserves, we can handle this. So what we did is we had to go to our road study and see which roads needed done when. And now we're working on them. Right now there's 4 roads within our town that are being done today.
Thanks, Sue. I think we have time for one more question, and I'll send it over to Adam.
When it comes to doctor recruitment, what can and should the township do?
Yes, Sue.
Well, actually, we have a medical center right within our town, and they have a doctor there. We also have a doctor downtown. I don't think we've really had much problem with the doctor. We have nurse practitioners as well. We're doing quite well on that front. I don't think there is any need. In fact, there's no waiting list in our municipality for doctors.
Thanks. Martin?
If there's going to be, I think there's a plan for 400 new homes coming into the area. Maybe Sue can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a lot of construction that's planned for the near future, and we will need most likely 1 or 2 more doctors in the area. I think we could probably offer a few incentives to get some doctors in, but really, I think that those kind of questions will have to be dealt with through the region and through the medical professionals.
Thanks, Martin. And we're going to ask one more question from Darren.
I'm sure you've both been knocking on doors, doing the traditional campaigning at events and facilities in the township. From what you've heard, what are the primary concerns of voters, and how will you address them?
Martin.
Well, apparently we're not allowed to use the facilities in the township for electioneering. So the only option we have is really a door-to-door campaign and things like this little debate. So basically, that's all I can say. Is really, I haven't really talked to enough people yet, and I'm still in the process of doing that, and I could probably give you a better answer in a couple of weeks.
Thanks. Sue?
What I've heard a lot about is affordable housing, and I think it's region-wide. As soon as we announced the GO train coming to Waterloo Region, housing boomed. Right now, I can afford to live in the township, but I'm not sure my children can afford to live there. So imagine you grow up your whole life in a beautiful town, you love it, you love the neighborhoods, the families, but you can't afford to live there. So we have to work on affordable housing, and we are. We've started some projects, we're working with some builders and some developers to create that affordable housing so that our children can grow up in the town that they love.
Thanks, Sue. So it appears that we do have enough time for one more question. And
Well,
we'll
I'd just like to follow up that last
get it.
point. With as far as affordable housing, really, like, what is affordable housing exactly? Like, affordable housing, if your taxes keep going up and people have to, seniors and young families, they have to make decisions on groceries or paying more taxes because our taxes continue to go up every year in this township. I wonder how affordable the existing homes are, let alone new homes. So it would be nice to it would be nice to come up with a better plan for the affordable housing issue, but we have to define what is an affordable house, and how much need is there really? Is there a lot of need for this kind of thing, or a lot of people that are getting older, are they moving to different cities and to condos? I don't know. We need to do a little more study on what we can really consider affordable housing.
I'm going to send it back to Sue.
Thank you. Taxes in the township have gone up, but we are still the lowest taxes in most of southwestern Ontario. We are well under any other municipality our size, and taxes are well within hand.
Thank you. So that actually took up the time that we had for that one last question. So we're going to start with the closing statements, and we'll start with you, Martin.
I would just like to say again, thank you for inviting me into your homes, and the election campaign hopefully will close with me being elected mayor, and I appreciate your time, and if you want to volunteer any kind of services to help run my campaign, I appreciate it. You can reach me at 519-716-7023. And when I'm the mayor, I'll be a full-time mayor. You can reach me 24/7. Thank you.
Thanks. And Sue?
Thank you. I want to thank Adam and Kim and Darren for tonight, and Rogers for hosting these events. In my opening address, I touched base on partnerships, working together, working with the other mayors of the township, working with higher levels of government such as region, province, federal governments. But mostly it's working with you, the people and the heart of North Dumfries. When I was at AMO, the conference, the Association for Municipalities of Ontario, I had the privilege to address the ministers. Several officials had spoken before me and each stated how beautiful their municipality was in Ontario. When I approached, I stated that the people of North Dumfries are pure of heart, and I am humbled to serve them. I give to you my dedication, determination. I pledge to work diligently, honestly, and where I have failed, I will bear that fault. And where I have succeeded, I understand that success is never accomplished by one individual, but by the collective will of many. Partnerships. We are in a partnership. And yet that's not completely true. For I believe I serve you. My job is to listen, to look at all the sides, to ensure my council has all the information, and then collectively we discuss and come up with a plan of action. Equally, my job is to inform, to make other levels of government aware that North Dumfries does not just exist, but we thrive. We, the people, staff, mayor, and council, as a unit, create community. We love North Dumfries. We all understand it is not perfect, but together we work consistently, achieving another step along the way to perfection. With your permission, with your vote, I would consider it an honor to continue to serve North Dumfries and for another term as your mayor. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thank you, Sue, and thank you, Martin. I thank you both for participating tonight in the debate. And be sure to tune in to Rogers TV on October 22nd for up-to-the-minute results. Thank you, and have a good night.